Hey everyone, I am here to talk about the Little School of Big Change and to answer all of your questions. So, this is just a super casual, super open Q&A. If you're coming on, whenever you come on, just put your questions in the chat or in the comments, and I will speak to them. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the school while I'm waiting for people to come on and share their questions. I'll just tell you a bit about, high level of how it works, what it's done for people. And then again, I'm just here to answer any questions that you have. So if things come up, just toss it in the comments and I will get to it. So, uh, Little School of Big Change is a 6-week course where you go through this with an amazing group of people. Each week, you get about an hour of video lessons and content. And the content was designed, I created this content in 2017, early 2017, um, after my book, The Little Book of Big Change, had been out for about a year. And in that year, when The Little Book of Big Change was out, when it was new, I I was blessed enough to be completely overrun with one-to-one clients. I was just working with so many people around habits. This is such a new way of seeing habits, anxiety, things like that. That for a lot of people, I mean, it was complete departure. Now I feel like it's a little more, it's not, I wouldn't call it mainstream, but it feels so much more common now than it was even 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. Um, but at that time, it was like people were so hungry to see an understanding like this applied to habits and addiction and all of that. So I was busy as heck that first year after my book came out, loved it, coached so many people, and then said, hey, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to create something where I can help walk a group of people through the way these individual sessions are running, through this understanding. And so when I created the curriculum, there's a core curriculum and an advanced curriculum. When I created those in that winter of 2017, I kind of did it like I was writing a book. I mean, I had written a book right before that, but I said, okay, starting fresh, brand new. Someone shows up, they're struggling. They think it's them. They've tried everything. So that's the mindset I'm in, right? Because that was me forever. You're struggling, you've tried everything. You think you're the one who's weak. You think you're the one who's failed all these past programs. You're the one who's failed all the past attempts. You're feeling hopeless. You don't know where to look. You've used all your willpower, all your discipline. You've done everything you can to change your behavior, change your experience, usually with willpower and discipline, and it hasn't worked. Now what? And so I created this series of lessons that walk you through how we work, how change really happens, because it's not the outside in way that we think it happens. It does not happen with behavior first. Deep lasting change will not happen with when we put behavior first and we just set out to change a behavior. It's just not going to work that way. We put insight first. We see things with fresh eyes. We see things in a new way. And from there, all kinds of change happens, and it happens pretty naturally because you see a new world. You see life differently. So the change is natural. So helping people kind of see more about who they are, how change works, how our experience works, why we get so caught up, why our issues, anxiety, habits, depression, all of that look so personal, look so real. Why is that? It makes perfect sense. There's such an intelligence behind it when we really look, but no one's really pointed us to look there until now. So the lessons kind of walk you through that. And again, I'm just like visualizing myself 5 years ago in this office on this whiteboard, imagining like holding someone's hand and from the very beginning and just walking them through this. So that's what the content in the course does. And so when you join the 6-week course, you get about an hour of content each week. And it's broken up into short lessons. So it's very fun and easy to get through. There are animations, there's conversations with some of my colleagues, there's a lot of me talking like this and sharing things. Um, there's quizzes, there's all kinds of fun stuff in there. So you go through about an hour of that each week on your own. And then we have two 90-minute calls each week throughout the 6 week course. So we actually have a bonus one too. So we end up having 13 calls, 13 90-minute calls where we come together on Zoom and we go deeper. I take you deeper into what was shared in the lessons, and then we turn it over to you, and I do a ton of coaching and answer a ton of questions. And those calls are really the meat of the course. Like that's where this happens, is in those calls, because you see people just like you from all over the world with the same questions you have and the same issues you have being coached, and you watch them waking up to what's possible for them, what's within them. And it's just huge. Somehow watching other people being coached and seeing it happen that way is sometimes more beneficial than us being coached, because when it's us, we have so much more thinking. When it's them, we don't so much. So so much happens in those calls, and again, there are a lot of them, and we're together for a long time. and and you get to do this course however it works for you. So you don't have to sit on every live call. Everything's recorded. You get access to everything for life. I would love for you to be there. If you want to be there, you can raise your hand and ask for my coaching or ask me questions or just discuss things with the group anytime you want, as much as you want. So we work it all in and we get everyone in. Um, so that's where so much happens, is in those calls. In between the calls, we have a private forum. And on that forum, it's myself and Amanda and Jessica Smith, Jessica Silverman, and we've been in the school for a while. Amanda and I have been doing this together since it started in 2017. The Jessicas came in last year, and the four of us moderate that forum, and we're there all the time. And our forum for the spring course that's happening right now opened on Monday, and it's amazing. It's already so active. There are people on there saying, I can't believe, like, literally, I just read this before I jumped on, someone saying, I can't even believe that I've been just in this forum for 3 days, how much I'm already seeing. Because we can explore things on our own. Uh, we can listen to podcasts, read books. That's all great. It's wonderful that those resources are available to us. But when we just do that, sometimes it's kind of like the stuff just stays in our head. And if we don't get something, we don't realize that we don't get it. You know what I mean? Like you think you get it. You're like, oh, I get what they mean, or I see how this works, and so we just go on as if that's it. But it's when we get in community around this, and we're talking with another human being, and we're hearing from other people, that we really start to wake up to what we see and what we don't see, and where we wake up to, oh, that I didn't think it worked that way, and we see that just in the conversations with other people. So that's why we can just be on a forum for 3 days, not even 3 days yet together. It's been two, really, when she wrote that. 2 days together, and already things are looking so different, and so many things are opening up, because she didn't realize that she didn't see those things until she did. So that's the bulk of the course in terms of the format: the video lessons, core and advanced curriculum, regular group calls, private forum for anytime support. And again, when the course is over, you keep all of that. And most people say that they either come back through the course again, which you can always do at a very steep discount, or they just go through the materials on their own again, because you have them for life. So most people do go through again, one way or the other. And they always say that the second time through, the third time through, is so much more impactful, even because now it's not new. Now you're starting from a different level of understanding, and things just keep getting deeper and deeper. So that's kind of how that works. Um, Enrollment is open now, as I mentioned. Everyone's on the forum, getting their bearings, finding their way around. And it does close tomorrow at midnight Eastern time. So tomorrow, Thursday, March 4th, at midnight Eastern. And that's kind of it. Like we close, we shut everything down at that point. The next course will be in September. So, it's not the end of the world. But I'd get in this one if you're interested, because again, you get to keep everything. You can go through at your own pace. So the people who go through in the spring, they're listening to that stuff all summer. They're seeing it more deeply all the time. And then if they want to go through the fall course again, many of them will. It's not a learning where it's like a one and done sort of thing where you learn some information and then you're off on your way. It's a way of seeing life. So we keep immersing, we keep revisiting, we stay in this community and conversation, and it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper into our bones until it just is the way you see life. And I love that. Like, it's amazing. I'm so grateful all the time when I just look back and think, I don't know how this all happened, but I sure know that life feels completely different. It's not that it is so different, but it feels completely different than it did for me 10 years ago. And each year since I've been around this has gotten better and better because it just grows and gets more and more deeper. There's no end to the insights we can see, the freedom we can feel. There's no end to it. There really isn't. So it keeps building, and it's pretty amazing. So I want to point you to, again, if you're here listening, if you have any questions at all, pop them in the comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I do want to point you to something I put in the, what do you call that? The description of this call, I guess, here on Facebook Live. Um, it's a it's a webinar, a panel webinar that I did about 3 weeks ago with 10 students. I think it was 10 or so students who have gone through the school in the past couple years, and they each share their own stories, their own experience. There are some that came in for binge eating, over drinking, anxiety, insecurity, low self esteem. There's all kinds of, a whole variety of people that shared on that webinar, and their stories are incredible. And, I just think I could talk about this all day long, but you guys know I'm biased. So I would really encourage you to go listen to them because they're just real people. I sent out one email to the community and got a flood of people saying, I'd love to share my story. So those are the ones that I chose and that came to speak, and they're just very, very genuine and authentic, and you'll hear from them how this can look and how it does look for people. Way better than hearing it from me. So I don't see any questions yet. If you have some questions, pop them in. I'll speak to a couple questions, and if there aren't any, that's okay because I feel like I do a lot of these things. I did a Q&A last week. I think you guys know I'm always available to answer questions and talk about this at all. So they may be answered, but some of the common questions. One of the biggest questions that people tend to have is uh, how is it that a school that helps people with a variety of things, like how is it that we can help people with so many different things with one single curriculum, one single understanding? Don't I need, another way of asking that question is, don't I need the little school of big change for anxiety? Or don't I need the little school of big change for drinking? As if they're all separate issues. And I was just coaching a group around binge eating just this morning before I came on here, and we had this great discussion about how for them it used to look like binge eating was their habit. Now again, you can substitute in whatever the habit is for you, whatever the behavior is. Shopping, working too much, losing your temper, those are all habits too, all of it. Insecurity, worry, whatever it may be. So it used to look to these women like I have a binge eating problem. And when they've backed up from that, what they've started to see is they're fine, they're healthy, they're well, they're just living life. And for all of us in the course of living life, we feel like ourselves, we're at home, we're just kind of moving along. And then sometimes we really get thinking a lot. And not only does our mind rev up and we really get thinking, but we really get identified with our thinking. We get kind of up there. We buy into the concepts. We buy into the ideas. Everything looks very solid and serious. And it's almost like we're open, loose, fluid, and then just gradually we start to tighten and tighten. Now, this again, this is human. This happens for all people all the time, and the little school of big change will not make this not happen for you. It's not possible. We all live in this place of openness and expansiveness, and then tightness and contraction all the time. It's just how life works. But as we get into this tightness and contraction, which is so normal and human, all kinds of extra thinking tends to come in. Like, what's wrong? This shouldn't be happening. Oh no, what's wrong with me? I don't like this feeling. And in this tightening, as this tightening happens, and we're saying, "Oh no, I hate this feeling. Get me out of here." We know it's not who we really are. We reach for things and grab things and do things to feel better. And then those things, so in the case for the women I was working with today, the binge eating, they would grab food and it would help them kind of feel a little less of this. That looks like the problem. So, like, we get so caught in the very end of the whole cycle. The very last piece is we add something to help us, to try to help us feel better. But then we just focus when we're saying, "What's your problem?" "Oh, my problem is I eat too much." "Here's what it is. See, look what I ate yesterday." But that was the solution. That's not the problem at all. That was the solution. It's never been the problem. The problem, there really isn't one, but if we have to call something a problem, like where the misunderstanding is, not a problem, but where the misunderstanding is as we're tightening, we think this isn't supposed to be happening. We get afraid of our experience. We take everything very seriously, and then we need to try to manipulate and change and fix this, and we can't because life doesn't work that way. So it was so beautiful to see these women start to see, "Oh, I thought I had a binge eating problem, but I see now that's just the very last stop. Of all the stops along that line, that was the very last stop. That was never my problem. My problem or my misunderstanding was back at one of the earlier stops. As I started to tighten, I thought this wasn't right. I thought this can't be how life works. And now I see it is." And so now they tighten and release and feel all kinds of feelings and all kinds of emotion, as we do, as we're designed to, as we're meant to. And it wouldn't make sense to do anything to change that because it just looks safe and normal, and it is. So I hope that helps, but that is why it doesn't matter what the last stop at the station is. It doesn't matter if it's drinking or drugs or violence or self-harm or food or anything. That's just the thing you're reaching for to try to help yourself feel better because you have a misunderstanding about your experience, and that gets cleared up way further upstream. That's why, again, anxiety, depression, all the things, we're pointing beyond how it shows up. So anything is fair game, and it all gets helped so much when we just explore, who we are and how this thing called life works. Okay, let me see. Yeah, so those videos, yes, Philip, you were amazing sharing your story in there. In the description, I'll put it in the comments also. I have a link here to where those stories are. I think those are a great thing for people to check out because you don't have to listen to me. I'm on there, sorry, but I'm just moderating the whole thing. It's really about the students and what they've seen. So, question: have you experienced that people around you think you're cold-hearted after seeing in this direction? Um, no, just the opposite. Just the opposite. But I will say that your question is uh, is not uncommon. So I think what happens, and again, I just had this discussion with someone this morning, like when we're first looking into this, it can kind of, our mind is so used to being in the middle of everything, right? Our mind thinks, "Oh, I'm in charge and I'm controlling it and I'm running life and all this stuff matters and everything I think is the truth." So when we start to back off of that, or even just consider that maybe it isn't that way, and we have a little more space and we relax a little bit, we do have things kind of move through us. We don't necessarily get as emotionally involved and as passionate about some of our experience. I mean, it's not to say that we don't, but there's a bigger piece that kind of grows around it. So our reactions and our emotions may sometimes they can feel like, "Oh, am I still do I still care? Like, what's the point of life?" Sometimes people kind of go off into that sort of thing. But it's a pit stop. It's a pit stop. And as we kind of see, this isn't about negating the human experience. It is just the opposite. It is about fully embracing the human experience because we see it for what it is and we aren't afraid of it. When we think we are our experience, we're very afraid of it, of course. If we need it to be a certain way, because that's us, right? It looks so important and big and meaningful. When we see it more like this experience is moving through me, and I'm not it, and I can play in it and feel it and be it with full safety, but I'm something bigger than experience. There's just such a peace and a freedom that shows up around that. And what it allows us to do is feel that stuff even more fully. It's not about denial or, not feeling. It's just the opposite. It's about feeling more fully with freedom, with security. So I equate it often, or I think about it often as like, if you have a kid who has a really secure attachment to their parents. So they have parents who aren't hovery and helicoptery, but they also aren't dismissive. The parents are there when the kid needs them. They give the kid the freedom. Like, this is, in psychological terms, this is like secure attachment, right? I'm here if you need me, but you have what you need, that kind of thing. What happens with a securely attached kid is their life gets big because they're free. They feel comfortable and free to go off and explore, knowing that they're safe. They can always come back. Their parents' love isn't conditional. Like, they can go, they can make mistakes, they can mess up, they can fail, they can fall down, but ultimately they're okay in all of that. That's what this understanding does for us as humans, that we can feel anything and it's not going to kill us, and it's not even us. It's not even about us. And in feeling in that freedom and knowing, wow, I can feel anything that comes my way, we do. But we do it without the angst and the fear. So I know these are just words right now, but really, like, really kind of looking in this direction and exploring this, you'll see, like, we have to kind of feel this ourselves to really, I think, know what I'm talking about. But I think it's just the opposite. And again, I would say, since you asked the question about like people around you thinking that you're cold-hearted, again, they are just used to whatever they're used to. So they might be used to you getting really caught up, being really emotional about things, or passionate, or whatever that looks like. And when we're a little less caught up and we're less emotional in some ways, people might draw those conclusions. I think that only makes sense, but that's just how they see it. And typically they just come around. Like, we can't, we wouldn't live our lives to give someone else an impression. We just have to do what feels right to us. And I it's not common that we don't, like, usually if we feel more peace and better and more secure in who we are, people around us love that. They flock to that. They want more of that themselves. It doesn't turn people off in general. And again, if it does, then that, I don't know what you can do about that. So I hope that's helpful. Let me know in the questions if you need um, a little more on that, and I'm happy to expand. All right. Let's see. Yeah, if you have any other questions about anything, let's see. What else do people, um, you know, I kind of mentioned this already, but one of the other big questions that people have is around, like, if you've been kind of looking this in this direction already, if you've done other things. I'm just answering a few emails from this morning about, have already tried all the stuff, right? I've invested and I've done all these things already and nothing's helped me. And I totally get that, because that was my life for a long time. I spent a lot of, I won't say way too much because I don't know, but it was a lot of time and energy toward trying to fix myself. That's how it looked at the time. And it's so discouraging to keep trying new things and have them not land. And I'll just say, if you haven't, if you're new to this way of seeing things, then you haven't tried this. You haven't looked in this new direction. And I just can't say enough that this is completely different than anything out there that's a more traditional therapy, self-help technique, anything. I mean, it is 100% around the truth that we are healthy and whole right this minute, that nothing needs to be fixed. we've just gotten turned around in our experience. We misunderstand how we work and who we are. And it is not hard. It is not difficult for people to get onto these, to have these misunderstandings cleared up, to get onto the correct understanding. That's what we do in the school. The very first lesson is called a simple misunderstanding. All our suffering is a simple misunderstanding of we think we're what our mind tells us we are, and we aren't. It is not difficult. It is not hard. It does not mean it happens overnight, but we look in this direction. We stay in these conversations. We stay open and curious. And tens of thousands of people that I've now worked with this in, I mean, I can't even tell you how effective it is, and how absolute kind of a given it is that when people stick around and stay open and curious, things are going to change for you. I people sometimes get frustrated and they leave early. That happens occasionally. But someone who's stuck around and been open and taken things in and is willing to see things in a brand new way, is willing to consider that maybe they already have what they need, I don't see those people not be helped ever. Like, they are helped. They do see things. Now, again, that doesn't mean that if their goal is to, lose 20 pounds in a month, they meet their goal. Well, no, that's just their goal. But I see them waking up to a much deeper, richer, clearer, more joyful experience of life that's less confusing and has them less running around out here trying to fix things across the board. There's no question, no question. So if you haven't looked in this direction, you haven't tried this yet. Trust me, again, it was me. I've tried everything. You haven't tried this yet if you haven't. If you've been looking in this direction, there's so much more to see all the time. I know that how I share this understanding is quite a bit different than I think a lot of my colleagues do. And there's no better or worse. It's just different. They're amazing. I say, listen to them, listen to how I share it, see what resonates with you. But again, even if you've been looking toward the principles or tried other things within this new paradigm, sometimes it makes all the difference to hear a new voice or to be in a new container where you get some support. I think I said this when we first started here a half hour ago, that it's great to be off listening to things and reading things on your own, but you're gonna you're gonna hit up against things that you can't see because they're your blind spots. It's a totally different experience to be in community and to have somebody who's been doing this work for years see your blind spots for you. Like, that's what I do. I see where you're caught up. I see where you think you get it, but there's something you're not quite seeing, and my coaches do as well. So that's how this is different. And that's another really common question. How is the school different from, like, reading your books and listening to your podcast and all of that? It's totally different because it's a supportive container. Like, it's a curated curriculum that builds on itself with our support. Totally different than listening to some podcasts about random issues. Those are great too, or random topics, I should say. That's great if that's what you want to do, but it's not at all the same experience as, it's like going to a museum and just kind of wandering around. Great, fun. Sometimes that's how you want to do it. Very different than being guided from a professional through that museum to put things into perspective and give you the backstory and say, now that you've seen this, see this one in this order and all of that. So that's how it's different. Awesome. Cool. Well, I don't know. I feel like I've answered so many questions lately. So I'm guessing if you don't have them, you've probably heard me answer them in the last week or so. If you're listening to this after the fact, put your question in the comments. I will be checking this frequently. I'll be responding to everybody's question. Anyone who asks a question, I'll answer it in here. Um, and yeah, if you have any other questions, you can also reach out to support at dramyjohnson.com. All the information, I put the link here, all the information's there, including phone number you can call, emails you can email if you need support with anything or have any kinds of questions about anything at all. We'd love to talk with you, and I would really love to support you and just see how this exploration goes for you, what changes for you in 6 weeks, because it's almost always way bigger than you even can imagine that it would be. You know, people come in and say, I want this behavior to stop, or I want to feel differently about this. And then they look back at the end of the 6 weeks and say, wow, that was what I cared about. That was it. So much more has opened up. So much more. And, you know, we can't know that until we watch and feel it happen. But I've watched and felt it happen for thousands of people from all over the world going through this course. And it has nothing to do with me or the course. It is how we're designed. We're tapping into what's already there. So it's reliable and it's consistent. And I'd love to support you and watch that happen for you. So thank you so much for being here. Any further questions, just pop them in here or reach out to me and we'll get them answered. And thanks again. I hope to see you in the school really soon. Bye, everyone.